Hello, Miss Walker and class. I'm responding to your comment because a lot of the points that you made resonated with me. I thought pretty much the same thing about different aspects of the reading, but there are also parts that you really elucidated I thought was really nice. I really appreciated how you took the information and you related it to real life. I think that's the point, right? And it was very clear. So there are 2 points that you made. One, and in describing surveillance capitalism, you say that these are ways to steer us to what they think we should want. And I love the way you put that because the words think and should stood out to me. Like it's quite presumptive of these companies, and you have the idea that there's some kind of strange control that's happening there. And the second one is lower in your response where you said, how do we pull ourselves away from the edge? Like, what do we do before we fall over? Like, maybe we are not completely over yet, and there's something that we could do to pull us back. So I thought it was quite interesting the way you put that. Now, in my own going through of the concept of surveillance capitalism, of course, I looked at the readings, but I also looked at a TED Talk, The Rise of Surveillance Capitalism, presented by Mark Weinstein, and I accessed this through YouTube. I also accessed through YouTube Shoshana Zuboff on surveillance capitalism. This is a VPRO documentary. In it's really an interview with Miss Zuboff, and it's really good. She really explained the entire history of surveillance capitalism and what that means for us all. Incidentally, I'm also reading a book called Empire of Illusion: The End of Literacy and the Triumph of Spectacle. And the author, Chris Hedges, quoted a Daniel Boorstin, who also writes about contemporary culture. And Boorstin says, we are the most illusioned people on earth, yet we dare not become disillusioned because our illusions are the very house in which we live. And of course, that kind of connected to what you were saying, that it's like what they think we should want. And a lot of the information that's collected, according to Zuboff, is in the shadow space, the shadow operation. And all of that is part of the illusion. So it gives us the idea when we're online that we are being satisfied in some way. Um, and yet, what we're doing in all of our activities and our clicks are really creating what she called behavioral surplus, added information that's then used and analyzed in order to make decisions and to steer us into certain places on the internet. Now, this shadow operation, as she uses it, this is Zuboff, is all, again, all the data that's taken by these companies, and what's presumptive and unethical, I would say, is that they take it as their own and they make profit. So we're basically like a commodity, but we don't get any gains from it except for this kind of pleasure that we want, that we think that we're getting. And this issue and this problem, Zuboff said, is 20 years in the making. So when we consider, like, what do we do about it and how egregious this might be or how horrifying it might be, we have to also understand that it's a problem that we didn't really understand was a problem. And really, if you think about it, as I was thinking about it, I'm not upset that when I go on YouTube, there are gardening sites that pop up, educational sites that pop up. I get information now because it's National Poetry Month on different poets. I'm not upset about that at all on Facebook or YouTube. But then again, it's that other part that we're not aware of and how that data is being used. Zuboff, in her interview, went so far as to say that countries such as China has used that information in order to persecute other people. And so when you think about it, you really don't know, of course, where the information is going and how someone can use it. That's a very extreme case. And I think that's what allows us to just continue the behaviors that we have because we're not really experiencing anything on a mass scale that we are affected by that we can say, okay, let's get off the internet. And then again, so much of our lives are in this box. This is this house of illusions, and we're not really going to stop our work finding things that we like for entertainment, or just the kind of information that you need on an everyday basis. That's not going to happen. So, of course, that goes into what you were talking about how do we pull ourselves away from the edge before we go over. Ms. Zuboff, in the interview, she talks about the Amish. Of course, the Amish do not use too much technology. They will for business to a certain extent. So they'll use a phone, of course, but it will be a phone only for making calls in and out, not texting or anything like that. But Zuboff was making the point that we shouldn't have to choose between going analog, as she says, and self-determination and privacy. And yet, it's our behaviors that really have put us in this position. So if they're really looking at our behavior, and our behavior is the thing that they are using to extract all this information, I'm thinking just the way you are, that our behaviors have to change as well, and that will send a message to them. The behavior can't simply be buying books instead of buying an ebook, because we understand that with this kind of that this technology is ubiquitous. So even if we feel that we're not on Facebook anymore, I'm going to disconnect from YouTube, I'm not going to use the internet for so many of my activities, I'm going to get off of Amazon. When we walk into a store and we make certain purchases, all of that information, of course, is then fed to companies anyway. So that's also being used for and against us. You get a coupon, but the other end is, where's that extra information going? So it has to be something that's more drastic, and it has to be something that shows that what we want is indeed a world where we're not making a choice between going analog and having our own autonomy, over what we are doing, over our lives. So going back to the first point that you made, when you also said that there's no free will in the digital world, and that struck me as a bit problematic as well, because we figure as Americans we have all this freedom, we have all these rights, and no one tells us what to do, and yet so much of our time is on these wonderful devices where no, we don't have free will. We are being steered in different directions. We think that we're making choices, but we're really not making the choices we think we are. Hence the illusion. So again, what do? It should be such that we do interact through our daily activities. That's a point that you made, and I agree with that. It should be that we get back to authentic lives. That we spend time with one another, that we sit and we talk to one another, and that these are activities that are fun and enjoyable and give us beautiful, wonderful lives that's incomparable to what you get on any device. I had this conversation with my students, absolutely not connected to this at all, but only one student, and I think like five. It was a day with a lot of absent students, but like one student said, I could go to the park and have fun. And one girl actually said, I can't disconnect. Like me and my phone, we're friends. It's the only friend that I have. So I think just that idea is a huge impediment and roadblock to going as far as we need to in order to turn things around and not fall off the edge. Well, I hope this all made sense. And thank you very much for your clarifications and the way that you put everything in your response. It was very clear, and it helped me to think and to see surveillance capitalism in a deeper level. Thank you. Bye-bye.